Oh, David Kemp. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank, thankful for being here today. For sure. Middle of our grief, sorrow, we're here. God is able to give power to the faint, to them that have no might, increase strength. And I was actually crying when I got to the door. Just sad. This is just sad. Okay, our lesson is found. The lesson is found in the second chapter of Matthew. And of course, we know that Matthew, uh, one of the one of the disciples, so he knew firsthand what was going on. And it's interesting. Remember playing that game where you whisper something to this person, they whisper something that goes all around. By the time it gets to the 10th person, there's nothing like it without it. And so I want to say, Matthew gave a first-hand account, firsthand, and first-hand accounts are always believed. You go to court and you say, somebody told me that he broke in that woman's house. So you didn't see it. So what you got to say don't count. So what I'm saying is, even in the beginning uh, of the New Testament, the truth is told. And we start off at the first verse. Our theme is a just king is born. A just king is born. Now, we have all kinds of kings across the world, and many of them are unjust. Uh, King of Saudi Arabia, uh, even when England had their king and queen, they went over to Africa and they were a major part of destroying that country. And just, I want what you have. I'll just make it by force. We have a bunch of evil people in the world, and they're in a position of authority. I was reading, and it's pretty much known where this woman, uh, the three guys that killed Ahmad, I think it's last Ahmad Avery, I think. But anyway, the three that shot him. it was 2 months before it was even brought to light because the woman that was in charge, she said, I mean, that was been the prosecutor. He said, "Oh, I don't see anything wrong here." And it took, I believe, 2 years to get it to go. People in authority, when they are corrupt, and it doesn't have to be as high as it can. We have all kinds of authority above. I've seen courts uh, like on I'm looking on YouTube, and if you smart off with the judge, he or she has the power, the authority to put you away for a long time. And if you sass them or disrespect them, they hit that thing, and they can add as many more days, months, or years for disrespecting the court. So we have a lot of people in authority. And in the religious realm, we have pastors, we have deacons, uh, trustees, all kinds of position of leaders. And if you have a corrupt leader, it poisons the body. I cannot put something in my mouth, swallow it, get it to my stomach. And if there's some toxins in it, my whole body reacts. So when there's corruption at the top, it tends to go down the line to the last person. Uh, we have not seen uh, so much of this racism, open racism, for a while. And I really thought it was over. But we see lynchings going on and burning people's houses and destroying black businesses. I mean, it's still going on. And that's because the people in charge in our society, as you go up the ranks, just find more corruption. And it's especially important uh, in our church. I know the pastor, he passed on, but when he would get ready to have a business meeting, he would put his pistol and his Bible on the pulpit, and he would show it to them. We go this way, we go this way. How y'all want it? And I'm thinking that is not a just way to lead people. And so justice is extremely important in leadership. Now, if Bishop comes in tomorrow and he says, "Oh, I think I want gray carpet. I think I want black chairs." Well, by the time we come back the next time, we're going to be looking at black chairs and gray carpet. And who's going to sit there and say, "Well, now, Pastor, I don't like those colors." Just sit down. It's not like you're taking a chair home with you. Sit down. So when people are authority, that it means just that. They can do things that common people cannot do. Get away. I knew of another pastor. He was an alcoholic, and he would keep alcohol, on that first shelf of the pulpit, and people thought he was just drinking water. They thought he was just drinking water, when in fact he was drinking whiskey. And he had to. Something happened. He had to go to surgery, and they had to postpone the surgery because he had too much alcohol in it. So they had to keep him in the hospital overnight to rid some of this alcohol. There is corruption at the top. It just is. People are bribed, and I don't even have to talk about whoremongering pastors. I don't even have to bring that up because we know they exist. Now, if a pastor really loves his wife and treats her the way she should be treated, that's why they say first lady. She ought to be first with him. And so when I don't see that, I don't want to be there. I love it that just about every time you see Bishop, you see Sister Scott. And when he gets ready to look at her, and he looks over and he says, "I'll ask my wife to pray." There's something about the way he says, "My wife," that it makes a difference. If he just say, "I want my wife to pray," that's not the same thing. I'm gonna ask. Now that's courtesy. Right, right. And you can see the comfort of their relationship. So in the church, it's extremely important. Now, I've never been under a whoremongering pastor, so I don't know. I just don't. That ain't who I want to look at every Sunday. Knowing these other things and women sitting around, Um, I've had women sit behind me and talk all under my husband's clothes. They knew who I was. They knew I was sitting right on the pew in front of them. Just, just disrespectful, and enjoy doing that. But I have not. I ain't meddlesome, so, but I have not observed anybody trying to be disrespectful because they jealous of her. I haven't seen it. So justice is important. We want a just man of God. And when we want to, whenever we have a question about something, I always say, how did God do it the first time? And when Jesus was born, he was born again. He was born that way. That was his title when he came here. And cannot have justice from a corrupt person. You don't even. I was watching the news, and then I'm going to get into the word. I was watching the news, and this rich little boy, uh, he was a young man by this time, and he had raped several women. And they said, the judge and all, they said, well, they have too much promise in their lives. They're going to have too much to offer society. So I'm going to put them all on a 1-year probation. Now, if that was the average person, particularly if they were black or brown, they're going away for a long time. And that's because money and position in society makes a difference. And we don't always look for justice in the court. And so, like now, Tom Karen accusing black people, particularly black people, things they ain't even thought about. This one guy, and I'm sure you read about it or heard about it, he asked the woman to put her dog on a leash. And so when you're at a park or a public place, you're supposed to have your dog on a leash. She got mad and she called the police and said, he's threatening my life. And because she was a white female, they went for that. And So we have an unjust system. That's why when we go to the altar, that's more important than going to the court. And coming to the altar, God knows what we need, and He provides because He is just. There's nothing in Christ where He could even make Him be unjust. He is just, and He's divine, and that makes and to show you how much authority He had when He hung on the cross, that covered every person that believed in God and believed in Him. In the Old Testament, it actually uh, speaks of a child will be born to a virgin. So He was expecting. God had revealed that, and so when the time of His birth actually came, we know the story. So I'm going to go in Matthew, and I'm going to start second chapter, first verse. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi came from the east, came to Jerusalem. Now that introduction, we know the birthplace. Oh, oh, okay. Thank you. A little close. Ooh, I'm trying to swallow it. How's that? Is that better? Okay. Um, in that very first verse, now the first chapter of Matthew gives the genealogy coming down to Christ, and he documents 40 generations before Christ. So after he was born, and it tells you where he was born. He was born in Bethlehem, Judea. That's the same thing as Indianapolis is in the state of Indiana. St. Louis is in the state of Missouri. And so those mayors and those state governors, these would be men in power. Well, now men and women in power. So he lets us know who Jesus talks earlier about when he was born. Tells us where he was born, tells us who was there. And when you have on your birth certificate, it's gonna always tell who you are, who your mom and daddy were, pertinent information. And that's why this is here. Jesus didn't just drop out of the sky. I mean, he could have, but that was not God's plan. So he said, King Herod, uh, the different magi, those would be like governors of the state. From the east came to Jerusalem. Now, when it talks about being from the, it would be in the area now what is known as Persia, and those were brown people. Now, it's the Middle East was not named that until around 1940, and that's because of racism. They wanted to separate themselves over here and leave the Africans over here, the very dark Africans over here. Hear me now? Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Okay. So these important men, these men of authority, they come and they want to talk. They ask, Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? Now, when you tell that to King Herod, that's a problem. That's a real problem. Because he king. He thinks he king. And so they're inquiring, where is the one who has been born King of? Now, that's important because the Jewish leaders at that time, they wanted all the power. So when you're talking about a king, and we know he born in Bethlehem, that wasn't the richest place to be born. But they're asking the question. They said, we saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. Now, you know what? From a child up, I knew the story about the birth of Christ, and it always puzzled me how a star stood right over where he was when you consider how far away stars are. Well, you know what? God can put a star anywhere he wants. He started them here with. He's the one that flung it out. There will be stars in the sky. So they're looking for him. They saw the star, and when it rose, the star showed them exactly where it was. Saw his star when it rose, and we have come to worship. So even as an infant, there were those who knew from the Word of God who he was and what his purpose was. And they have come to worship him. They've come from a very long way to see this child. So now when King Herod heard this, he was disturbed. And all Jerusalem with him. They don't, he the king. Who is this y'all talking about? He just a baby. He's not even in line. So they're disturbed. And you know, when there's corruption at the top, it goes right on down to the bottom. Dean Campbell and I were talking about a resurgence of racism and that fact that Trump opened the door to that. And because that stuff was quiet. You couldn't, from 1970 on, you could not, uh, you had to live where folks lived. You couldn't put a black person down. So people that were people who were racist, oh yeah, yeah, they bring us back to our superiority. That's what we like. That's what we want. We always had it that way. We want to keep it that way. People, there's there's comfort and familiarity, really. And if somebody drops you off now and you have no idea, my mouth is so dry. So everybody's upset because they heard of it. And when he had called together, this Herod, they're referring, when Herod had called together all the people's priests and teachers of the law, that would be the Pharisees, that um, one were priests, part of the priesthood, the others were teachers of the law. And he asked him where the Messiah was born. Y'all know everything there is to know. So we want to know from you, where is the child? Now, that shows his insecurity right there. if if a woman, my daughter, if a woman came in this church today and said, "My name is Susan Smith, and I'm Pastor Brian's wife," this me, what he, I'm the wife. Who are you, and what are you talking about? So that aggravation started right away when they referred to Jesus as the King, and they call him Messiah. I knew you were not. As long as you know who you are, it don't matter what other people think. A wife? Oh, yes. Right, right. Hmm. Right. So him being a king, as you said, he was intimidated. Who y'all talking about? A baby being king? Y'all know that runs in my family. So yes, he's disturbed here. So they tell him where Bethlehem, and that's the same as Indianapolis, Indiana. They tell you exactly. So you can go online. You can find anybody in this city you want. I went online and looked up my own address. They got a picture of my house on. Like, wouldn't they do that? And my phone number. So there's a lot of information out there, and so he wants, where's this Messiah? And they tell him in Bethlehem of Judea. But this is what the prophet has written. And they held very closely to what the prophet said, unless and until it didn't go along with what they thought. So they've been talking about Jesus coming forever. And Herod knew about it too, because he knew the Jewish history. But when you say a child, a king is born, a Messiah, means a savior. That's great. Well, if he honored that, what y'all plan to do with me? Where I'm supposed to go? What? Where would I rank if he's king, if he's Messiah? So they tell him he's in Bethlehem in Judea, and for this is what the prophet has written. So when a prophet wrote something or said something, it's pretty much accepted. When Bishop says whatever, whatever, because he's the pastor, I came up and challenged him about that. I used the example if Bishop came in today and he said, "I want all this gone. I want black chairs on gray carpet." I'm gonna come in and sit on my gray chair. I mean, on my black chair, looking at the gray carpet. So when you have a certain amount of authority, you can exercise that. And who in here would say, "Well, I still like the purple, so I don't want it to go"? Who's gonna say that? He says, "But you, Bethlehem in the land of Judea, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people." Now, when you say he's a shepherd, that's pretty low on the social ladder. So that was not a real problem. But when you say a ruler, now you have challenged him. So Herod called the Magi. These were uh, kings of certain areas that would be like governors of different states in the United States. He found out from them the exact time the star appeared. He sent them on to Bethlehem, and he said, "Go and search carefully for the child. Don't go to every other house. Just be real careful and serious about your." And he says, "And when you find the child, as soon as you find it, report that to me so that I may go and worship." Now, this man had a throat full of lies. You seen people, they just lie all the time. Just can't tell. I often talk about my baby girl, and I use the example. He was on the step ladder, very top. I said, "Aubrey, get down or you fall." I'm looking at her like I'm looking. AJ, get off the step ladder before you fall. Now I'm looking at her. And she put that lie out there, and it just sounded, if I didn't know that that she was going to repeat that, but people can lie. Some people just got, like I said, a throat full of lies. Every time they open their mouth, it's another lie. And because we're still suffering about the things that happened, the aftermath from, and he said, brought this African woman, she gave some cure for COVID. We couldn't even pronounce the word. Um, he's talked against the hypocrisy is that he already had his booster shot. He had both of his COVID shots and his booster. So we have hypocrisy at the top. And we talked about that, at the top of Sunday school. So he sends him on to Bethlehem, go and search carefully the child. So now when he says search carefully, that means don't leave a stone unturned. I want to know where this boy is. And as soon as you find it, report it to me that I too may go and worship. Lying right there. And I'm so glad that God knows man's heart. But he knows when we're lying and when we're telling the truth. So anyway, after they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. That is just amazing. Amazing. But you know what? God wouldn't be God if he couldn't do amazing. So when they saw the star, they're overjoyed. And on coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary. They did bow down to this infant and they worshiped. We know Jesus when he comes. We really, when he comes into our hearts, is the mind, spiritual mind. When he comes there, you know who it is. I mean, Satan is the deceiver. He's a liar himself and the father of lies. So when he appears, if we know Jesus is real, we recognize. So they were just overjoyed. Imagine being able to pray. I just don't know that my heart. I was so excited. I'm glad when I see my pastor. I'm happy when I see my firstborn. How would I feel if I actually saw the baby on coming to the house, saw the child with mother, Mary. They knew who he was because God had let them know from the start. They bowed down, they worshiped him. Then they not only just bowed down and worshiped, uh, they put, as we say, put their money where their mouths are. So they go into their treasure and they presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Now, I did look those up, but it won't come. And having been warned in a dream, they didn't go back to Herod. They returned to their country by another way. You can be headed danger, and God will put somebody right there to help you go another direction. And I use this analogy. I was at this little club by myself, tiny little thing, 118 pounds, 5'2". I'm in this club because I want to show sign. I walk in the door, and there's a huge bouncer. So I look up at him, and he looks down and he says, "Why are you?" I came to see Joe Simon. Why are you? Because Joe Simon's here. Asked me third. Why are you here? By now I'm angry. I told you I came to see Joe Simon. He said, "You do not understand. This is a dangerous area. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna sit you at the table, right in front of the stage. And when he goes off the stage, I'm gonna come and get you, walk you to your car. I want you to leave and never come back. I don't know what the danger is gonna be. I do know that God sent or put him in place to bless me, to stop me." So this man, urged me out, and he says, and he had sent me a drink. He said, "I'm gonna put you here and I'm gonna act like I'm your boyfriend. Well, ain't nobody gonna challenge the bounce." And so God had that man right there because he knew, God knew that I was in a danger. And he sent someone take me the other way. And all of this was the plan of God. Because if Herod could have stopped, he could have cut Jesus' life off as an infant, he would not have hesitated to do that. Because right behind that time is another governor, and he says, "Kill up all them babies. Everybody, every baby, every male child under 2." And that, and people do things to try to stop God's program. But you can't. Satan is never going to win the battle over Christ. If God said, "I'm with you," that is all you. And you know God from Satan. Because if you've had any experience at all with the Lord, you know him. He said, "My sheep know my voice, and another they will not follow." So when this just king was born, we know the rest of the story. As he grew up and became of age, he did what he came to. And that's so important to know the handiwork of God. Has any of us been warned about something in a dream? You ever had a dream where the Lord warned you about something? Mhm. God speaks to his children. And I know. Hmm. Hmm. Right. Hmm. Exactly. You don't just go prancing up to God and say, "Here, hey." No, I'm saying when we cannot walk up to Jesus, I'm here now. Well, now, well, what is we going? And some people are bold like that all the time. Mhm. Right. Right. The heed to the call, and that's called obedience. And that is the one behavior we have so much trouble. We do obedience. We just do because we are Satan puts that contrary spirit, and we say, "Oh boy." When I was out there, I welcomed every single, well, no, not every, but most of the things that Satan presented. Oh, I thought that was wonderful until it was. Now, Bishop looks, and then I'm going to wind this up. Bishop tells us all the time he, his only regret that he didn't come to Christ sooner because he was out there and he was in a worldly band and all of that. Well, I don't feel that way. I really don't. I enjoyed every joint I smoked, every drink I drank, every man I dated. I enjoyed all that until one day I did. Now I have something and I would never walk away in Christ. Okay, so this is the time of the year that we honor the birth of Christ, and He is to be honored. He is to be praised. He is to be magnified. Okay, let's have closing prayer, and then we're going to end our Sunday. Father God, we thank you. Thank you so much for your word. Thank you for allowing me your word and move my emotions aside long enough to call me. Thank you for the students and their participation. Stay with us, Lord, as we move on into our morning worship. Stay with us, please. I'm asking in the name of Jesus for his sake. Amen. Okay.